fiscal year 2023, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, the proposed appropriation of the Office of the Vice President amounts to 2,292,673 pesos.
This proposed, thank you, distinguished sponsor. This proposed total appropriation for 2023 is 258.52% higher than the average appropriation for the Office of the Vice President for the past 6 years. Is that correct?
That's 226.58% to be exact, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor.
My figure says it's 258.52%. Anyway, it's a huge percentage increase.
I agree, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor.
Mr. Speaker, may we know from the distinguished sponsor what agency or office of the national government received the highest percentage increase in its 2023 proposed appropriation compared to the current year's level?
Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, based on the proposed appropriations for 2023, it is the Office of the Vice President that receives the highest increase in terms of percentage, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor.
Thank you for that candid answer, distinguished sponsor. The increase translates to 226.58% compared to the present year's level. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor.
May we know, distinguished sponsor, whether there are new projects and programs in the Office of the Vice President which were not included in the projects and programs of the previous incumbent?
Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, in the past and the previous vice presidents in the country, the Office of the Vice President have their respective programs and projects that were implemented. And for this year, with the present Vice President, the Vice President intends to implement several social services programs that will cascade to the people in the regional and the provincial level.
The Vice Presidents then, before martial law and during martial law and after martial law, did not enjoy the allocation of confidential funds, and they did not ask for the appropriation of confidential funds in the respective office. Is that correct?
Sir Speaker, Your Honor, I stand corrected. In 2009, there was a confidential fund of 6 million pesos. In 2010, there was an allocation of confidential funds amounting to 3 million. In 2011, there was a confidential funds amounting to 6 million. And in 2012, there was a confidential fund amounted to 9 million. I stand corrected, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor.
Yes, that is correct. And these are minuscule amounts compared to 500 million. What is the take of the distinguished sponsor that the previous vice presidents did not actually ask and was not allocated confidential funds in the magnitude of 500 million?
Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, the Vice President, being a former local chief executive of the city of Davao, who is a staunch supporter of advocacy on peace and order and national security, deemed it proper to be a complementing partner with the Office of the President in assuring that all of the President's programs will be implemented based also on the perspective of ensuring of a peaceful and a secured nation. And it is the intention of the Honorable Vice President to implement her programs using these confidential funds to assist and help all agencies in ensuring and assisting in achieving national security in the country, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker.
Well, let me remind the distinguished sponsor, Mr. Speaker, that the Office of the Vice President has its own confidential and intelligence fund
Compliment.
amounting to about 4.5 billion pesos for 2023, similar to the confidential and intelligence fund of President Rodrigo Duterte. Now, in a nutshell, distinguished sponsor, what is the justification for granting the Office of the Vice President confidential fund, which is unprecedented in magnitude?
Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, the amount of 500 million as confidential fund is for the safe implementation of projects and activities of the Office of the Vice President. Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, my apologies for I cannot give all the details and specifics of the activities intended for this confidential fund. If Your Honor may agree, I can share it with him later confidentially, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor.
Well, we are not in a confidential interaction. I think if we would like to grant the Office of the Vice President 500 million confidential funds, then this should be justified, and members of the House should know what will be the projects and programs to be funded from the confidential funds.
I'd like to, again, confirm sa ating sponsor na yung total budget, yung proposal para sa OVP ay nasa 2.3 billion pesos. Tama po ba?
That is correct, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor.
Okay. Ito ay maihahati sa dalawa. General Administration and Support worth 91 million pesos. Tama po ba? Tsaka Good Governance Program na 2.2 billion pesos.
That is correct, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor.
Okay. Ngayon, Mr. Speaker, kung merong 500 million na confidential funds, hindi natin ito maa-attribute doon sa General Administration and Support na nagkakahalaga ng 91 million pesos lamang. Tama ba, Mr. Speaker?
That is correct, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor.
Ibig sabihin, Mr. Speaker, yung 500 million pesos na confidential funds ay nakalagak bilang bahagi at hindi hiwalay doon sa Good Governance Program, Mr. Speaker.
That is correct, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor.
Yes. Ito yung nakakabahala, Mr. Speaker. Kasi minsan meron ding misinterpretations kung saan ba mahahanap yung confidential funds. We thought na ito ay hiwalay doon sa Good Governance Program. Pero ang katotohanan pala, ito ay nasa ilalim ng Good Governance Program. Ibig sabihin yan, Mr. Speaker, the confidential funds will constitute 23% o 1/4 na ng Good Governance Program. Malaki yung kinakain itong share doon sa yung binabanggit sana na mga aktibidad o proyekto para sa ating mga kababayan. And in totality, the confidential funds will constitute 22% or a little more than 1/5 of the budget of the Office of the Vice President, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, it is true that it's part of the Good Governance Program because it is, again, the intention of the Vice President to implement good governance programs based on a strategy that was I mentioned earlier, which is legally mandated by a circular issued by COA and DBM that allows confidential funds for an office. Mr. Speaker, Your Honor.
Mr. Speaker, Naniniwala po ang representasyon na ito, with all due respect sa ating kagalang-galang na sponsor, na ang good governance ay kabaligtaran ng pagkakaroon ng maraming confidential funds. Ang good governance po ay nakasandal, no, or it highly depends on principles of transparency and accountability, especially among our public officials. Mahirap po tayong makapagsabi na meron tayong pinapractice na good governance kung malaking bahagi na ating pondo ay nakakubli. Dahil dyan, Mr. Speaker, to wrap up this interpellation, I believe na kung yung pondo ng National Task Force LCAC ay maituturing natin na general spork, yung current proposal naman para sa budget ng Office of the Vice President ay may lalaiken natin o may hahambing sa Vice Presidential pork cloaked with good governance. Yun lamang, Mr. Speaker. Maraming salamat.
So yung huling i-discuss na lang po ay yung tungkol muli dito sa confidential fund. So alam naman natin na meron po tayong tinatawag na joint circular na susundin ng Office of the Vice President with respect to the pag-spend nitong confidential fund. Sa sinasabi nila na physical and financial plan, at the very least, ay yung data kung saan makikita yung proposed amount allocated for each program, activity, project, where disbursement pertaining to CE shall be based. Dapat may maipresent na ganitong data kasi ano yung pinagbabasihan ng pagbibigay ng ng confidential fund. So, ang confidential fund ay masasabi nating lump sum. Kaya nga tayo po, Mr. Speaker, we are for the transparency over a huge amount of funds, which is unprecedented, hindi lang sa amount, pero mismong the fact na maglalagay sa ganitong klaseng na pondo. Kaya po kanina, bagamat hindi pa maididetalye kung ano po yung confidential fund na ito, natuwa naman po ako na binigay ito doon sa discretion ng kongreso. At natuwa naman po ako talaga na dapat ang confidential fund ay napakalaki nito na dapat na maidagdag na lang natin kasi marami tayong mga ahensya na talagang nangangailangan na mapunan ng pondo o malagyan ng pondo dito sa confidential funds. Mr. Speaker, distinguished sponsor.
I take note, Mr. Speaker, the manifestation of Her Honor.
Okay, for that, Mr. Speaker, I end my interpellation. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much, distinguished sponsor.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Honorable Castro. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Daghang salamat, Congresswoman Castro. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, in continuation, I move that we recognize Representative Paul Daza of the 1st District of Northern Samar.
The gentleman from Northern Samar, Congressman Paul Daza, is recognized. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning. There being no members of the minority who wish to interpellate, I move to close the period of sponsorship and debate for the budget of the Office of the Vice President.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, on the part of the majority, we join the minority in the motion to terminate the interpellations of the proposed budget of the Office of the Vice President.
Very helpful. There is a joint motion to terminate the interpellation on the proposed budget of the Office of the Vice President. Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The interpellations on the proposed budget of the Office of Vice President is hereby terminated.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Move to suspend, Mr. Speaker.
Session suspended.
Yan ang hero nyo. Yan ang hero nyo. Nag-aral. Hindi nakatulong na isang linggo. Nag-aral.
Ano na ako, ha?
Thank you, Bob. Ano ba yung nag-iwan? Ano matandaan yung nag-iwan? Lagay mo lang dito. Oh. Ano matandaan eh? Tuloy-tuloy na po. Tayo. Hindi. Transponte. Transponte. Gracias. Kawawa yung